Good morning, good morning. Thank you for coming in to the Tuesday morning forum. Let's get started. You know I'm looking right at you too. Good morning. So, my first time facilitating, I know I'm usually walking around with the microphone. They said, Robert, come on up front. You got a radio show, you can talk. So they got me up there. So today, first thing we want to do is go over some housekeeping. If your phone is on, please silence it now. Don't wait to be the one that we all look at when your phone going on. Or as Winston would say, we'll know what kind of music you listen to when you're not here. Next thing, questions. After we allow them time to speak, we will have time for the floor to be open for questions. Next thing, first timers. Any first timers, please put your hands up. Lovely, lovely, lovely. We're going to ask you to tell us who you are, where you come from, and what brings you in.
Good morning. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Madison Holmes. I'm a 3L at Elon Law. I'm from Charlotte. I'm currently interning with Judge Keith Smith for the summer before I go back to school in August. I stopped here for one more back in August, but wanted to reintroduce myself since I haven't been here in about a year. So good morning. It's good to see all you all today.
Hi, so it's technically not my first time too, but I've never had the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Sabrina Robinson. I'm the outreach archivist for the Robinson, Spain, Carolina room. That is the repository of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. I don't hear your time. I'll be online, but I just can't introduce myself online. So, but yeah, I've enjoyed, being in community with you all.
One more.
Good morning, family.
Good morning.
My name is Dr. Teresa Harrison Jackson. I'm from Chicago. I came in yesterday, and I am here to do some setup for the Week of the Stellars, and that is August 13th, 14th, and 15th. And we have a number of events that are happening in the community, in churches, as well as downtown at the Spectrum, and the Carolina Theater, and Middle C Jazz Club, and all kinds of things. You'll be getting more information, but I'm so glad Charlotte has embraced us, and we're excited about being here, and we just think this is just coming home. So thank you, and any questions that you have, I'll be willing to answer, and we'll be getting more information to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and welcome. Come back. Don't let this be the first and the last time you guys are coming in. Now we're going to get it going the right way. Mr. Patton, come on up. We're going to get a prayer. Get us started.
Good morning. And welcome to all our newcomers. We're thankful that you found this hub to come in and be with us this morning. And to our panelists this morning, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you once again for this opportunity to come together as a community, as a collect, to discuss the affairs of our community, to share information, to be impactful, Lord. The information that's presented today that would be fruitful, and that it would be productive, and it would help us to grow and develop as a community as a whole. And as we do each and every week, Lord, we'd like to just say thank you to all these facilitators, Lord. They give tirelessly of their time each and every week to bring productive, creative dialogue to this forum. These and other blessings we ask in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you. What do we call Dr. Patton? The Reverend Dr. Patton. Elder. Okay, I'm sorry, Bishop. I want to make sure that I say thank you to Ms. Laura McCletty, Ms. Carlenia Ivory Canty, Ms. Jackie Edwards Walton, Ms. Natalie McElrath, who is our timekeeper. Please respect her. She's going to put that time up, and that means stop. If you don't stop, she's going to tell you to stop. She's going to give you a warning in advance. All right, we got Ms. Mary Johnson, Shay Abdullah, Gary Young, Jasmine Wright, myself, Ms. Carlita Sherrill, Dr. Blanche Penn, Tina Marshall, Steve Johnston, and Dr. Thomas Moore. The forum home today is from 8:30 to 9:45. We will have announcements, so if you have announcements, they will be at the conclusion of everything. If you have an announcement, please make sure you put your hand up, he'll get you, and we'll call you in order that you put your hand up the best that we can. If you have questions, please make sure you put your hand up, he'll get your name written down so that we can get your questions answered. And now, we have two lovely guests today, and let me give you some insight on who they are. As soon as I can get it back up on my phone. I'm gonna do some reading of some good information. I'm not gonna just tell you Miss Vickie Craighead-Davis. Let me give you a little insight. Miss Vickie is a housing retention leader here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg, committed to ensuring that people who exit homelessness stay housed. And she's gonna give us a lot of information on that. And Mr. Chablis Dandridge. Chablis is a Charlotte, North Carolina-based entrepreneur, advocate, and social impact leader whose work sits at the intersection of real estate, criminal justice reform, and community-centered social enterprise. And so they're gonna be sharing a lot of information with us today. You both will have 5 minutes to speak. You can go first, and then we'll follow up with you.
Hello. Hi. One, I want to say thank you for just your presence in the room. Again, I'm Vickie Craighead-Davis. I am a homeless service professional here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have 15 years of experience working through organizations such as the Men's Shelter of Charlotte, Urban Ministry Center, Charlotte Family Housing and Living, and a host of other contract situations within the county. My goal was to just serve as a servant leader. It was very important for me to be a part of the solution. And in that, I identified several gaps within the system to create what's called BHBC right now, Building Hope, Building Commitment. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's focused on housing retention and stabilization. Mecklenburg County has the Housing First model, which is a great model, and it gets people through the doors and it solves the access issue here. But the RCSM, which is the Retention Centered Stabilization model that was created, and it's a working model, it kind of keeps people there. It identifies the barriers to sustaining housing, removing barriers to sustainability. Housing First is important because it says people should not have to be fixed in order to maintain housing. It prioritizes permanent supportive housing, safety, dignity, personal goals, and a quality of life. And it also values client choice in the housing and service participation. Housing First answers the access question, RSCM answers the sustainability question. We don't reject the Housing First model, we embrace it because we know that we can complement it and individuals can remain housed longer. In human services, we know that people do not stabilize simply because the lease is signed. Housing may stop due to crises, traumas that individuals are undergoing, but it does not automatically solve that trauma. So we provide that supportive service to walk beside the families to understand why they fall into homelessness. Sometimes it's landlord mediation, sometimes it's removing the barriers to actually obtaining and access to housing. We act as advocates in that manner. Behavior modification is one of the essentials in our model because individuals, kind of use their experiences to kind of move forward in life. And if those experiences haven't always been positive, then they bring that into their housing situation, and then the potential of eviction, unauthorized guests, conflict, behavior issues. These are all things that individuals go through that cause interruption in their housing, especially if you've experienced long-term homelessness. And a lot of our clients do spend a tremendous amount of time in homelessness. We operate from the theory of choice theory. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but some of you may. But Glasser states that our behaviors, people act out certain behaviors because they're trying to achieve something, whether it's love, belonging, social connection. They're acting out in some sort of way. So instead of looking at their behaviors and saying, oh, you violated your lease and acted as a punishment, what we do is we try to determine what is it they're seeking, what are they trying to get. When the individual invites people into their home, it could be for income stabilization, because they need to provide some of their space so that they can earn extra money, things of that nature. But these things also are in violation, which they fall in and out of homelessness. So we try to examine those behaviors, recognize what's needed, and assist them with that behavior modification. Employment is also something that is super important, and not everybody have the skills to sustain employment as well. So we try to just kind of look at all of those issues and kind of get them on the right path to sustainability. Just a couple of talk points on what the model focuses on. Like, Housing First says you deserve housing. Our model says, let's help you keep it. Housing First removes unnecessary barriers to entry. We build the structures that people need after entry. Housing First honors your choice. RCSM teaches informed choice. Housing First offers voluntary services. RCSM creates relational engagement that makes support feel useful and not forced. The joy of this work is watching someone realize that they're not being managed, that they're being supported. They're not being labeled, they're being coached, and they're not being watched to fail, but they're surrounded through enough structure that it helps them thrive. Just a couple of data points, and I'm gonna continue to read this because it's hard to keep it all in your head. In 2025, BHPC served 174 individuals across 150 households, including 74 homeless veterans. The population had real barriers. 64 individuals entered with mental health disorder, 63 were with chronic health conditions, 56 with physical disabilities, and 32 with substance use disorder. Yet BHPC maintained and sustained engagement with stayers on an average of 266 days. That's a median of 269 days in services. And that speaks volumes to our model and to our program, because one, the revenue that comes through our program, it actually speaks to retention. In 2025, $434,000 came in from program fees, and that is actually people paying their rent. That is people working the process and working the program, and that's huge. That actually was 173% growth in 2025 versus 2024. So among 40 leavers, 17 exit into permanent housing without any type of program support needed. They reached a point of self-sufficiency and moved on. Only 4 of those individuals returned back into homelessness, and that was through their choice of not participating in the program based on just criteria, because we do hold individuals accountable for what they do. Accountability is a big part of what we do. So I think that's it for me.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Shabli Dandridge, and I am a community public safety consultant, as well as a real estate professional. And I like to say that I really didn't choose a community development professional that kind of chose me. I'm formerly incarcerated, so I'm a person with the lived experience of incarceration. Started in delinquency at 14 years old, and I left the federal prison system in 2017 after doing 13 years in prison. And that was gonna be my last time engaging in the criminal legal establishment as a recipient of services. I made a declaration throughout that 13 years of incarceration that when I come home, I'm going to be successful, and I'm just going to go back and tell people inside that you could do it too. I figured having a wheelchair was enough to set me apart and say, look, if I can do it, what's your excuse? So when I came home, I set out on a mission to get re-involved in real estate. That was something that had been a family capacity prior to my incarceration, and I did. Only technology changed the game. Technology changed real estate for me, and what happened was that everybody's familiar with the app Uber. It's just like technology changed transportation, it also changed housing and investment in real estate. Airbnb allowed me to get into real estate for relatively no money, and I started there, built a successful Airbnb portfolio on that platform, and then I turned my attention, along with my family and other investors, into transitional housing. I'm sure you can only imagine why that meant something to me. It was because I had a good support system to return to in my natural supports, and I knew 1,000 men and women who would be coming home soon without that good fortune. And so I figured if I could do anything, I could be an example of what's possible. And so I took every part of my history and my life experience and contribute that to what I would go on to eventually accomplish post-incarceration. I've been home in May 10th. I celebrated 9 years back in the community, and 7 of them as an entrepreneur and a professional. Currently, I'm a landlord who provides not only Airbnb housing, but also transitional housing for formerly incarcerated people who are transitioning from any number of background issues, whether it's fresh out to their background is prohibiting them from renting a house. Hence how Vickie and I connected in the community around creating affordable options and mutually had alignment in the fact that about 60% of people who are dealing with being unhoused have criminal records. And so we had a similar interest there, and we had built and grown together organically and very much at a grassroots, because y'all all know that the little guy on the totem pole never gets the resources, but is doing all the work. That's what the big agencies is calling us to make sure that things happen, but they don't want to hand over a check. So we've always bootstrapped, and we've come a long way, and I'm very proud of what BHBC has accomplished to date. Some of the things that we do together, I always say that I'm a public safety professional who is a real estate professional as well, but my focus is on prevention, intervention, diversion, and restorative reentry. Anybody in here not concerned about public safety? I think so. Anybody in here know how much it costs to sustain yourself in Charlotte if you're going to live independently and self-sufficiently?
$82,000.
$82,000. What does that break down to roughly an hour?
A lot.
Last statistic I read is about $24 an hour is what it will cost somebody to self-sufficiently survive in Charlotte. We always hear about the affordable housing crisis that we're in, but we're also at another crucial crossroad, and that's industry. A lot of things are happening at a federal level. I'm sure everybody has been paying attention, where programs are being removed and some accesses are being denied. And then when you think about it, people who have had the scarlet letter of felony on their record are generally some of the people who have had the hardest time restabilizing themselves. And so, as my colleague said, BHBC looks at a host of things that go with stabilization and retention, and Dangerous Consulting Group is the component that plugs in to make sure that those individuals have what they need in order to successfully reintegrate, also navigate, but also become a self-sufficient, independent individual, meaning get them the type of education, certifications, or anything else that's going to help them to earn the $24 an hour that it takes to make it independently in the community. And so we do a lot of things. We do workforce development, we do behavioral health, substance misuse prevention, housing, host of things, psychosocial educations, and it's all born out of the need of the individual, because a lot of times we want to spend the money on evidence-based practice, but the only evidence that I base my practice in is, did that person get what they needed? And so individuals are like DNA. Every need is different. Every person's deficits are going to be different, and those are the things we're going to look at individually at a human level in order to provide people the services and the supports that they need. I'm going to pause right there because I could talk for the rest of the hour, and I know I got 5 minutes, and I don't want to get that time called out on me.
All right, that's good, that's good. We'll go ahead and get questions started. As usual, Kim Coons, you have the first question.
As you were talking, I found it away from and this is a combination of both of you. I know some cultures, everybody lives in one house. Sometimes you got 10 to 15 people. Where there are occupancy restrictions, what is your experience of assisting those families like that? And Chablis has an awesome story, and it needs to be told. And would you be interested in a feature interview that tells your story? And we have a representative here from the Charlotte Area Black Journalists Association, and they're always looking for positive black features to do. And I think you definitely represent one that should be told.
That's awesome. BHBC understands that family dynamic is different for everyone. All I can tell you is what my experience is, and that's one reason why I love the working model. I recently had a client situation where it was a mom, she had 2 children. She was placed in a 2-bedroom unit through the BHBC program. Her oldest son and her new daughter-in-law that was expecting ended up coming into the household, in addition to an elder daughter who had 2 small children who experienced homelessness and came into the household. Now, typical landlord situation says you done violated your lease, you're oversized for the unit, and you have to go. But BHBC says, no, we look at it totally different. So what we did is all the adults was actually enrolled into the program. The son, expecting mom, and his girlfriend was transitioned into a bedroom, affordable housing unit on their own. And then the mom was transitioned out of a unit into a unit that supported the 2 smaller children that was added to the household. And I say all of that to say, we don't have a problem with understanding that life happens, because we're parents, we're mothers, we're aunties, we're sisters, we have brothers, like we are human, and life is gonna happen, and we're gonna make those executive decisions. I call them executive decisions of our lives to say, yeah, I'm gonna take this risk to serve my family. And just like in other cultures, outside of the African American community, they can reside together. That is not something in our community that can always happen. So how do we help them? So we help them by giving them what they need.
Yes, thank you for the invitation, and absolutely, I'd be honored to tell my story to whomever it is that you just talked about. I just wanted to add to what she said about dealing with a bigger family dynamic. One of the things that the law says, is state law, is that 5 unrelated people cannot, no more than 5 unrelated people can stay under one roof who are not blood related. And so one of the things that I do as a professional is register the houses as adult group homes in order to get an extra person in there, but then cap that house at 6 people, because once you get past 6, it's just impossible. I mean, it's almost impossible just to be married and live with your wife. So, can you imagine 4 others in there? And so, I invite and encourage other landlords to follow a similar type of model. But the other thing also that's important to me is privacy and autonomy. Because of spending so many years in systems and places where I had to share with somebody right on top of me or right at my feet, I believe it's essential to a person's just development and identity of self to have own, and not only to have your own, but also to be responsible for the community, the collective, the houses that we create. So we're particular about making the houses look like what's out here on market today in 2026. We're not giving substandard opportunities. And to Vickie's point, when we know that there's an issue, we don't just say, you violated the program, now you have to go. We say, what are the issues that are causing you to be in violation? How can we support you to get where you need to be so that you're in compliance with whatever the regulation is there? Because it's going to be a regulation no matter where you go. HOA say you got to pull your garbage can back at the end of the day or get fined. So there's going to be a rule and regulation no matter where you go. And it's about conditioning people to understand that, hey, if you're going to be a functioning part of this collective in society, you have to do your part and stay in compliance with whatever the regulations are where you choose to be. And so those are the ways that I do, she does, and we do, especially when we're working together, address those issues.
Yes.
And one of the things that I would like to add is that landlord partnership is very important in what we do, because again, we need access. BHBC house individuals between 24 and 48 hours of being contacted. What I love about the landlord partnerships is that when we have a landlord or a partner that is interested in doing the social impact work, they actually ask us what would be the best layout for the unit for the clients that we serve. And I mean, they're dropping in, and I'm just gonna have to boast about this for a little bit, they're dropping in extra bathrooms, they are adding extra space, they're adding community spaces, so that this can be an actual environment one is proud of. Not just, it's not just a shared living environment, it's not a boarding home. Like, people come into it and they come visit our units and they like, I would live here. And those are the things that I love about what I do, is because I would live there too.
Thank you. I have the next question. Last month was mental health awareness. This month is men's mental health. Do you provide or suggest or require some type of mental health therapy before you allow people in?
Thank you for the question. So in life, I know I make it a practice not to require anybody to do anything. Everybody has an invitation to do things, and also their expectations. So whatever the expectation is, and that's going to be the law of the land. The lay of this room is we have 5 minutes and we got 2 minutes to reply. And so if somebody gets out of that expectation, they're going to be told, hey, shut up, cut the mic, or get out. So there are responsibilities that have to be met. And if somebody is dealing with mental health challenges that are visible, an invitation will be sent to engage those types of services, and then a provision will be made to get them connected to those services. I say that confidently because my wife owns a mental health agency, and she came out of substance use. She was the family's director at Hope Haven before she went into private practice. And as we grew together, I became peer support, which is a paraprofession in mental health and substance use wellness. And so together we operate that agency. I'm over the enhanced services division, which includes peer support, community supportive team, ACT teams, and things of that nature. We don't do all of that, but that's what it entails. And she deals with the clinical component. And so the invitation is made, but not without the education and the promotion of the fact that mental health is wealth. If your mind is not right, there's no way for you to be wealthy in any capacity, not even the richness of family. And so identifying the fact that most of us, all of us who have been through a carceral experience have PTSD, and now they're calling it post-incarceration syndrome. So you already qualified for needing the types of care that mental health support provides. So we're 1,000% dedicated to it. We run a program in conjunction with Urban Institute for Strengthening Families. Not sure if y'all familiar with Dr. Kelly Little in the Urban League called the Father's Haven. And while it's named for fathers, it is inclusive of community where we promote a lot of mental health. I got 30 seconds, so that's it.
Thank you. You want to answer?
Yes. So in our housing program, we are low barrier. We do not require you to do anything to get into a program to try to be better. What we do is we provide a self-sufficiency assessment to determine what their needs are. And some of those screenings kind of allow us to rule out whether or not they need mental health or substance use services. And if they do, we are a highly collaborative organization that connects with services within the community and within, through our partners, to make sure that they get the services that they need. Our biggest goal is what is going to prevent you from sustaining and maintaining your housing. And a lot of times, the mental health piece is part of it. And not for the extremities. Sometimes it's that, but it's also just not being able to engage, failure to, or inability to communicate, anxieties, right? Because some authority figures, like, what do you mean I can't smoke in my apartment? Who are you to tell me that? Your landlord. So we help kind of mitigate those things, right? And we act as that buffer, because sometimes it's culturally, Southern and Northern is different, especially in how we talk, in our language and our pronunciation and our loudness, right? So next thing you know, if you're irate, no, I'm not. You know, and it's those type of things that we kind of help people really kind of identify, that helps them be more productive citizens.
Next question is Samir.
Good morning, my name is Samir Hamid. I love what you said about the invitation to the mental health, because it really positions it as something they get to do, not something they have to do. I love that. If I was hypothetically mayor of Charlotte, what would be your wish list for me outside of money to really make your job easier?
You can start.
I don't want to get the 30-second thing again. I know this question is like, meet me outside after this is over, but we can really have a conversation. But at a very high level, and I will be brief with this, at a very high level, there is an extreme need for collaboration between private investment capital, the nonprofit space, and city and local government. And when we can master that particular team effort in a way that maximizes the use of any revenue that we invest in our community, we're doing better all by ourselves at that. The statistical data will prove and show us where we're deficient at. It's these red tape bureaucratic processes, oh, we can't do this, oh, we gotta do it like that, that contributes to waste. So if we have to do it like that, we need to find ways that we can cross-collaborate, we can capitalize off of every dollar invested and get a positive ROI on the things that we're making investments in?
I'm just gonna be honest with you. We need money. And we really do, and we need money for staff. As much donations as we get in, we partner with faith-based organizations that pour into our org to help us serve in a larger capacity. And we wanna make sure that our faith community dollars goes to our citizens. We don't wanna use those on salary. We don't wanna use that revenue to pay a high-paid position. We want to stabilize families. They spend millions of dollars in rapid rehousing, TBER funding, all these other voucher programs and things like that with no expectation that individuals do anything more than receive the service. What we have learned is that for $32,000, we were able to stabilize 174 families. And it's just that simple. It really is, because we're not a housing subsidy program. What we do is have the expectation that you prioritize your housing, and in doing so, we remove the barriers to that. So if you have car trouble, or if you have food scarcity, or we cover utilities, right? Because minimum wage hasn't changed, right? And people can only afford what they can afford, and you can't get milk from a turnip. That's what my grandma used to say. You just can't. And we understand that. So we would need funding for staffing. That is what we need. We want dedicated individuals, we want to hire the right people to do the right work, that want to do the work.
Dr. Blanche Penn here. Good morning, good evening, good night. My question is, I'm a landlord with my children. They're coming back home as a senior citizen, but I don't get paid. So my question is, how can I or them get into the program so that way that I want to be an ex-landlord so everybody can have a space for their own. So I need that number real quickly and tell me what we can do. Because we got too many seniors like myself where they're coming back home because, like you said, the minimum wage is costly and all of that. So how can you help us?
Well, first you can go to the website, bhbccarolinas.org, and there you will find a link to get into the program, become a landlord and or support. The phone number is 704-713-2362. And you'll be connected. There's a referral process that you can do online. Once we evaluate your income, because you have to have income to be in the program, because there's no such thing as free housing, even if they stay with you. And we want to make sure that we are constantly teaching people that model, right? Because it's easy to go to grandma's house. Especially our culture, we'll go back home in a heartbeat, but are we even being productive there? So it kind of starts there to get an understanding that you need to prioritize your situation, save your money, set aside, because again, first month's rent, security deposits, those things are real, and you need finances, and there's no services in the community that provides that support. That support is very limited in our community, so you need to make sure that you have those things. But feel free to go to the website, and we'll see how we can assist.
What's that website again? I'm sorry. What's the website again?
BHBCCarolinas with an S.org.
Outside of income, are there any other restrictions for people getting in the program? Do they have to have mental health issues? Do they have to have a disability or anything like that?
No, ma'am. You have to have the commitment to the process. That is really what you can be formally just as involved. We serve everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. We have housing for LGBTQ, reentry, registered sex offenders, families. We even have shared family models. BHBC is also in partnership with BDP and Community Solutions to provide supportive services in their 101 Targola Apartments, as well as Park at Ferentino, that's dedicated to serving vulnerable veterans. We serve everybody, because what we know is that housing, the face of how homelessness has changed. I've housed individuals that I work beside. I've housed individuals that I serve. Homelessness affects everybody, and I think that's the message that I would want to send the mayor back there. It affects everybody. I could not only be the president, I could also be a client.
Good morning. My name is Darnell Ivory. And Mr. Daniels, I like what you said about evidence-based practice, making sure that the person gets what they need. My question to you is, you mentioned that 60% the people who are unhoused have criminal records. What would be the top 3 stigmas that places apprehension on others to invest in those who have criminal records, and how can the statistics be reduced and lend support to this population in terms of breaking that cycle?
When you say the top 3, I think the biggest is the fear mongering around formerly incarcerated people, what they did, and why they did what they did. If you look at statistics, the data says that the majority of people who are committing crimes are committing economic-based crimes. They're doing things because they're trying to survive. It's a very low population of people who are just doing random acts of violence for no reason. And so when you talk about the top 3 things, one is the prejudice that exists with not in my backyard. If this person did something, then they're going to most likely do it again. Well, I'm formerly incarcerated drug dealer, and I'm not going to sell any drugs ever again. I paid too much for that particular behavior. So when I came home on a mission devoted, dedicated to recreating my life, surviving, being a thriving part of the community and the ecosystem. So one of the things that I think we have to do is educate people, our community members, that the person sitting next to you, if given the opportunity, really wants probably the same thing you want, because they're probably a parent, they're probably a child, they probably have some kind of job. So these are our neighbors who, we want all of the same things. Just, anybody familiar with the Chetty study? Anybody familiar with the Chetty study? Everybody. But, so I see some head nods. Back in the day, Charlotte was 50th of 50th of major cities for upward mobility for people who were born in poverty. So one of the other answers to your question is, what can we do to make sure that those gaps are being attended to? And Charlotte is very resource rich. That's one thing I learned about being out in the community. Charlotte has a bunch of money for a bunch of things. So we're making the investment. It's not that we're not making the investment, but if we're not treating everybody individually like a strand of DNA in addressing the shortcomings that they're experiencing, then we're not doing them any justice. And so the program can't be one size fits all. It can't be check this box, go on down the line like an assembly line. It has to be looked at an individual granular level. I work with people every day in the detention center coming home with all kinds of different needs, barriers, and wants. And the other thing that I get to do is to connect them to other people and bring that prejudice bar down a notch. Say, hey, give this person a chance. I've watched them for 6 months engage in programs that have improved self. Now give them an opportunity to exercise what they learn and what they know, and let's see how they perform. Because until performance is done, everything is a roll of the dice. Even the good person looking on paper. I had a sheriff one time rent a house from me, and that was the only person we had to put out. I'm serious. And I got 30 seconds, so I got to put it down. But meet me in the parking lot after this. I'll tell you some more.
Thank you. My name is Lorenzo McNulty.
I wanna say the same thing that my partner has told me is God, don't let my heart be hardened against the people you've called me to serve. My experience, though, in developing senior safe housing for veterans is my fear of the court process because of what you guys are saying you support, which is the wraparound services component. Because we try to make people housing secure, right? But oftentimes they don't have the regular habits of cleaning up or going grocery shopping, just regular things we take advantage for. So my question is, and I don't like evicting. I do not like that, but I have to protect the assets so that I can continue to house people. What are some of the solutions or some of the guidance? What's some of the guidance that you would provide for a private landlord like me who is engaging the public to provide housing?
I want to start because I will go on forever if I take the second position. So I want to start. First of all, Vickie said it, ain't no housing free. And as a landlord and a person who I serve, one of my things is whatever investment you're getting made into you is somebody putting up some money. Your responsibility is to comply with the requirements. And when you don't do that, I don't have no problem saying see the door because you did not do your part. And there's no place that you can go and not do your part and be successful. So I'm gonna stop right there because I got a laundry list. Meet me out in the parking lot after this, right? But I believe, as a person who believes in public-private partnerships, nonprofits working with landlords, that we have to be good stewards of everything that we're doing. Even the participant has to play a role. And you don't get to absolve yourself because you have mental health issues, because we got mental health support. So you can tell me another excuse, but you can't tell me that. So I'm gonna stop right there.
Accountability, right? And expectations. So I want to touch on expectations. As a program provider, I have an expectation that my clients live in sanitary conditions. How I help that is that there are things that I provide so that my expectation can be met. And those are the things such as laundry detergent, cleaning supplies, garbage bags, toilet paper, paper towels. These are things that we provide weekly for our homes and our clients. Because I can't come in and do a home visit and say to them, people that I know, their personal situations, limited income, mental health concerns, substance use issues, why isn't the house clean? Can't say that, I can't have the expectation. I provide those things. They're not mandatory. I don't have to, but that's my level of support to the household. And when you can walk into any of our locations, 47 across the community in our scattered site model, and you will feel like home because we set the expectation. This is what's required to be here. They walk in the door and everything from the mop all the way up to the coat hangers is provided for them. They need no furniture, they don't need entertainment because we are very conscious of what idle time does to individuals with mental health issues and substance use. We're very conscious about what happens when needs aren't met because when they're not met, you're going to go get it by any means necessary. As anybody sitting in this room, you don't have to be homeless to make this decision. If that decision may work for you, it may not work for me, but you're gonna make the decision and decide to get what it is that you need. So we eliminate the possibilities for that. And another thing is the accountability. You can't live nowhere for free. Housing has to be prioritized from the clients all the way up to the political level. It has to be prioritized. And we could reiterate that. We're high engagement and we're high touch. We don't give them an opportunity to punch holes in the wall. We don't give them an opportunity to get 2 and 3 months behind in rent. We find out on the 15th of the month what their situation is, and we start handling it from there. Because we have to keep it conscious, we have to keep it at the forefront of their mind. Retention has to be at the forefront of your mind, because you don't wait until the 30th or the 31st, and then the case manager show up on the 12th after the eviction paper has been filed. That's poor case management, especially when you know who you're dealing with.
Good, Mr. Patton, your turn.
Yes. Ms. Messon, this question is for Mr. Dandridge, and I appreciate everything that you're doing in the community, particularly your work with Mr. Artie Swinton. How can that be replicated to other districts, such as the Middle District and Eastern District? And what can we do as a community to change policies that may put up barriers for returning citizens? Of course, they have to deal with the situation on their record, trying to get normal housing. What can we do as a community to assist in that process?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The Middle District, we were in talks with the Middle District about going up there and just assessing their needs. I think what we do can be replicated anywhere as long as we understand the population that we would be going to serve, because each locality has a different need. And I learned that with the Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention Council providing programs in different counties, seeing what some of the offenses were, seeing what some of the household needs were. I just learned that throughout my short career in that space, that everywhere you go, there's going to be a different need. And if you don't address that need, you can bring any model in there you want to, it's not gonna work. And so the other part that you asked the question about is, how do we affect policy? Now, I always say, when anybody asks me something that's just too big for Vickie Dandridge or my small finite mind to conceive, I say, hey, that's bigger than Nino Brown. You know, I can't tell you what the answer is to that. They say vote, and then, you know, I watch TV, and it don't seem like that worked. I watch the internet and the reels, and they talk about the election was a fraud. So I can't really say that the political process is what will really help the community, but I can say, based on what you do know, that when the people who are motivated to make sure that it happens align and join forces, the community gets what it needs. And I say that with respect to the gentleman you mentioned. Artie Swinton is a person who came to make sure he makes an impact and a difference. And when he goes out there and puts his mind, his energy, his resources, time, talent, and treasure to whatever it is, it happens. And so people like myself, people like Vickie, and other community components, we get together and we make it do what it do no matter what the rules say. That's what we do. And we don't do it violating the rules. We just do what we have to do in the rules to make it happen. And so I can't tell you that there's a way to affect policy. I can tell you there's a way to put all the right people on the team and get results.
Good morning. My name is April Benson. Nice to meet you. My question is, it might be two on top of each other, but partnering with you or to have a referral system if you have an overflow and you need places for your people to go to while they're waiting to come to your homes or apartments, wherever you have. Because I got some homes that I'm trying to put people into. So if you have an overflow, and I'll get with you later, that do you work with a referral system to refer the people out?
I'm gonna say yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. And the only way BHBC can be as successful as we are is to have a slew of housing partners. I went back to the roof above 3 years ago. And I left in February of 2028. And in that time, I led a great group of individuals who housed over 2,700 people in a 3-year course. And what I did was I saw them come back. And not because somebody did a poor job, but the organization didn't have the capacity to provide the rental retention services. So what I know is that access is one of my key components. And having multiple housing partners, especially with reentry, because we they come out unexpectedly, right? When they come out, they come out. And what is the fastest way to lose somebody is not having a place for them to land or poor exit planning. And then they land up in the shelter, and then we lose them, and then they fall back into recidivism, right? So we need partners that understand that we are working with individuals, and we are working with lives. And I don't know about anybody else, but life does not happen between 9 and 5. That's why BHBC hours are different. We work from like 11 to 7, 12 to 8. We're basically a 24-hour operation. Because at least you get calls at 3 in the morning saying he's exited. I get calls from individuals after they get off work because they need to maintain their income, and that's an expectation of mine. So we have to meet them where they are. So to your question, yes, we love to partner. You can go to the website. There's a link on the website that says be a housing partner. And we can talk about that. And we advertise for you as well, as long as we come to a mutual agreement and expectation, because we are an affordable housing entity. And we want to make sure, we understand LLCs, they're in it for profit. We are nonprofit. And that means we want to make sure that our clients can sustain what you're offering. We don't want to squeeze them into your inflated rents because you want to get rich, if you will. We want to make sure that we're providing something that they can sustain based on their earning potential.
Real quick to that point, the affordable housing component is, as a landlord, I've seen that there are nice profit margins and still been able to provide affordability to the person that I serve. One of my core convictions is I'm not going to enrich myself on somebody else's misery. And so if you're trying to get rich, there's a place for that. There's market rate room share where you can charge $1,200 a month per room. But the people that we serve, the $700 and $800 is a lot. And so when you start to get beyond that, you're moving into unaffordability. And then that's okay. But my invitation to anybody who wants to make some market rate stuff, just get a regular house that you do share housing in, and let that offset what you do your impact work with, because the margins are not slim. And I always ask the person who comes to me, are you in this to make a difference or just to make a profit? Because if you're in it just to make a profit, then go market. But if you're in it to make do good for others and well for yourself, there's a place for that. And so just make sure you got yours focused, because the person that we're serving is probably gonna need a lot more support, a lot more care, and a lot more of your patience.
Good morning. I am William Davis, CEO of the William B. Davis Foundation. I've been a nuclear engineer for 48 years, and I've been a real estate investor for 44 years. And I've been in almost every kind of program that has been presented back. So, first of all, how do you sustain? How do you fundraise? And how can, at the most I've owned 52 houses in commercial real estate. So how do you convince me to be a part of your program? And most of those questions have been answered with the gentleman just that. But if I talk to some of my friends who are still in the business, how can you convince them? Because investors ain't it to invest. We do have good hearts, but we do have bills. So I'm saying, how do I get involved with it? And and how do I convince my friends that are investors to get involved with it? Thank you.
Okay, for BHBC, our landlord partners, they're getting 3 things. They're getting occupancy, they're getting timely rental payments, and they're getting the security of knowing that their property is not being damaged. I'm keeping you out of court. I'm keeping your property curved, aesthetically beautiful, and I'm providing a actual social impact for you, right? BHBC does two things, right? We bridge, we master lease, right? Meaning that the organization will master lease your unit for our shared environments and our shared homes, but we will also provide you quality tenants that is on long-term supportive services. We don't just set them in your unit and walk away. You can drive past your property and see a piece of paper on your floor. You can call us, and I promise you somebody will come out and pick that paper up within minutes. We are very high engagement, high touched. We value both the client as well as our landlord partner. And what that shows for my landlord partners is they know that even if we have someone in their unit and it doesn't work out, the unit is filled in less than 15 days. So there's no break in revenue, there's no damages. We have a team of people that if there is damage, we have development partners, construction that comes in, make the necessary repairs after you're informed of what happened, right? Because we high communication, everything that we require of our clients, we hold ourselves accountable to our landlords. BHBC don't own not one property that we have in the community. We have 47 properties in the community outside of 500 units that we serve within the community. We don't own anything. They trust us with their property because they know we are going to be responsible. And 15 years in the business of housing and homeless services, most of my landlord partners, they believe in what we do because they know we care.
There's also some contractual stuff that we do, partnering with different county entities, so that drives some of the revenue. There is the faith-based community that I'm sure she can tell you more to how the program works, but they pay regularly to sustain some of the costs. And then program fees also is another way that we sustain the cost. But the other part is, one of the things that separates us from a lot of other programs is we've created an ecosystem. So not only do we do the workforce development, but people who get into the building trades, we also hire them. I'm also a general contractor. So when I'm building, and I have guys who've come through our program and they've been good students and they're doing good at their full-time job, we get the part-time work so that they can continue to increase their skills. But then that's also allows us to provide things like property repair and maintenance at a very competitive rate for other landlords. So there's a plethora of different ways that working with us just benefits the individual, but most of all, it's like Vickie said, I'm not only a hair club president, I'm also a client. You know what I mean? So for me, I am the individual that I serve, so you can't sit beside me and say, oh, well, I don't have access. No, you got access because I'm taking you to get it right now. Now you can say, I don't want to, and then we can say, well, this relationship has to take on the dynamics. You have to go somewhere else, and we're going to keep moving. But that's up to the individual. Nobody is just systematically dealt with in any particular way. So I think those things also add to the attraction of being connected.
Okay. Before we...
I just wanted to add to, Building Hope, Building Commitment have place-based service contracts that allow us to generate revenue. Again, Mr. Dandridge spoke about our faith-based giving as well, through grants, crowdfunding, and a slew of donations is how we sustain.
Okay, we're down to about the last 10 minutes. We have about 5 more questions. Please, if you can, keep your questions to 30 seconds and your answers to 1 minute. And if the question is for both of them, please let them know. If it's just for one person, please specify. Next person up is going to be Gary.
All right. This question is for you, Mr. Dandridge, and this kind of steers away from the housing aspect, but so let me preface it by saying it's very convoluted, so it's not one simple way to answer this question. But through your experiences, having gone through the system, having done everything you're doing, what would you say is like I said, it's convoluted. What would you say is the singular or most important aspect to derail a kid from going down that particular lane and staying on the straight and narrow, regardless of what his options for choices might be?
You gonna ask me a convoluted question in 30 seconds and 1 minute to answer?
Robert Adams is a little question.
Access. I really think that young people who have access to options and opportunities have greater chances of success. I did my first 5 years supporting DJJ kids, juvenile justice involved kids, providing diversion programs. It was a small organization called Life Connections. And the singular most impactful component for them was to have access and information so that they can become aware of what possibilities are. Influence is another thing that plays a big role. There's no way to discount the influence of peer groups. But meet me in the parking lot, we can talk about it.
You can talk to people in here too, after.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't all have to meet in the parking lot.
Hi, Danielle Thomas. I think both of my questions are parking lot questions, but I want to go with, I'll go with this one, and this is going to be directed to Brother Shibley. Where do people typically fall through the cracks between, this is about the cross collaboration. Where do people typically fall through the cracks between government services, nonprofit financial institutions, and the private sector partners? And what part of that ecosystem still lacks ownership? And who needs to take ownership?
Oh, I should ask that the first question. I think where we lose people is at the intersection of need and know. And when I say that, I mean, when they need something, if they go somewhere and they don't get the answer that they need, a lot of times that creates crisis for them. So when they get to somewhere and they think that the city is supposed to be doing this in this program, or the county is supposed to be doing this in this program, they say, oh no, we don't do that, that causes crisis. And a lot of times they move back into survival. Where do I think we need to be more vested is at the corporate level. A lot of small guys, and I consider myself small, so I'm not at all speaking to what the gentleman in the back said when he said, at some point there was 50, but there's hedge funds that have hundreds of houses in the city. And if we can get them involved at a greater level, then I think that we would improve the outcomes. But yes, it is parking lot, and I would be happy to stay here and talk to you.
Sorry. I was talking. I apologize. I just wanted to say to both Arlethea from Blumenthal Arts, Shibley and Vickie, we have worked together on some things with Blumenthal. Samir asked a question about what the city could do if he were mayor. Will you talk a little bit about partnerships like what we do with Blumenthal, which is so much of what you do is not just giving people a place to live, but really we want to help people to thrive. You said the city is so greatly resourced, and you're absolutely right. What other things might you need to help make their lives more full beyond just going to work, coming home, eating, going to sleep, and going back to work again?
Is this for both of us?
Both.
30 seconds apiece. So first of all, shout out to Blumenthal and Arlethea for what she does. That is the example and the epitome of access to something different. And so we need more programs like the one that Blumenthal operates so that people, young people especially, but just people in general, there are people who have never left their neighborhood and they're 50 and 60 years old. So to be able to get exposed and aware to other things and other options and see themselves in it is one of the greatest gifts we can give. And that comes from the faith-based community, it comes from our judiciary, it comes down to the nonprofit organizations that we all collaborate with. I think that is one place that we can start bridging and making greater impact.
Yeah. Again, the Blumenthal is a great partnership with our clients. It's exposure to something different. And the arts is one of them. Like, access to shows, Broadway shows is great. We also need deeper partnerships, getting them acclimated into and integrating into the communities that they're going. It's one thing that we pride ourselves on is oversaturating communities with individuals. We want to branch them out. We want to get them into different parts of the city so that they are just not around the Freedom Drives and the Bettysford Roads and the North Tryons and the College Street, right? We want to get them Tabola, South Boulevard, Valentine, right? There's affordable housing out there, but again, there's limited access. So with partnerships like the Blumenthal and our for-profit, and that's one of the things that Shapley brings to our organization is that private sector, and making sure that we do continue to tap into the services that's out there in the community. So thank you, because he connected us on that.
All right, we have 2 more questions. Let Ms. Carey, and then we'll finish up with Ms. Alma Adams.
I'm Carrie Nelson. Thank you. I'm over here. Thank you for your amazing work. And I'm curious how many staff you have for all the work you do. Do you only work with formerly incarcerated? What about those with previous evictions? And do you have a waiting list?
Okay, waiting list, yes and no, right? Because crises is a crisis is a crisis. And it's all about access. It's all about making sure that a person is ready to move into a housing situation. Again, we are not a subsidy program. We do not provide first month's rent security deposits. You have to really come to us ready to make the commitment to your housing process. What was the second part? Oh, right now we have 4 staff members right now. We are hiring 3 additional, but we do operate on a volunteer basis. That is part of our faith-based partnership. So with our faith-based partners, they provide volunteers for us that are trained in trauma-informed care to assist us in kind of being commitment specialists to continue to move people on. What we're in desperate need of is individual volunteers that would like to work with our senior population. Our senior population is struggling so bad. And if you want to volunteer, go to the website, 30 seconds, we'll talk soon.
Congresswoman Alma Adams will close us out, and I'll take away the time restriction off you.
Well, thank you. I will try to adhere to the time. Well, thank you for your work. Thank you for your work. Housing is a big issue for me. It's one of my ages. I think it's a basic right that everyone needs to have. So thank you for what you're doing and for the people that you're serving. I'm curious. You said you had 4 staff. Early on, you mentioned being able to pay staff. I'm curious about whether or not you have applied for any federal funding.
Yes, ma'am, we have applied for federal funding. We currently have just recently been awarded a GPD TIP grant to, again, continue to house veterans. We've been incorporated since 2020, but we was a small growing org. So really, we had a breakout year in 2025, and we're continuing to grow expeditiously. One of the things that I talked to Mark Jarrell about is, is there a possibility for them to help us with staffing? Because what we receive in donations, even the grants, they're service restricted grants. So it's basically on whatever particular service that is being provided, which is not really helpful, but helpful because it allows us to expand our program piece. But we really need the support from the city and the county to say, hey, this is important. We know we need to keep people in housing, and how do we support that? Because again, Housing First is great. It's a great model, but how do we keep them there? Because even in our permanent supportive housing situations, individuals are recycled through based on their behavior issues. They get kicked out of one place, they get prioritized for another based on their chronicity. But again, retention is not 100% focused, and then it's not that one size fits all. You know what I mean? Like you have to qualify for permanent supportive housing, but what about the rest of the community who actually just needs housing?
Well, there are a number of opportunities, I think, federally, that if you haven't looked into and applied to, I would invite you to reach out to my office. But also the community grants that we do. We don't get a lot of money. I do about 20 million a year, something like that. Those are little dollars.
Congressman.
We deal in billions and trillions, and and the president's just shaking the piggy bank and stealing all the money. But the point is, I think that there are probably some outreach that you can make, and I would certainly give you my card and reach out to my office, and we'll see what we can do to help. The other thing is there are other agencies within government, like those that deal, for example, with veterans. And there are certain components, so I think we have to, and I know that small organizations like yours you don't have the people to actually write the grants and that kind of thing. But what's important is that when you talk about providing the funding for services, you can't provide the services if you don't have the people. And you're exactly right, because most of the funding that's available, I have a small nonprofit in Greenville, so we're about 36 years old now. It's an arts program, by the way. But if you don't have the staff and can't get the funding to support the staff, then that's going to be a problem in terms of the services that you must deliver. But thank you so much, and I appreciate it, and I'll give you my card. I won't be in the parking lot, but I'll be there.
All right, that's it. And we're gonna give you each a minute to give closing comments, and then we're gonna do announcements.
Well, one, I want to say thank you so much for this platform. I think it's great. I think being a boots on the ground nonprofit organization, I normally keep my head down and I do the work. I want to get better at doing things like this, but when you have 174 lives in your hands, you kind of stay a little bit busy. And I refuse not to do the work, so I'm out there doing it. So, one, thank you for this opportunity. Always, I leave you with retention matters. And I want that to kind of resonate in your mind, because if we cannot protect our homes at a minimum, productivity is limited, because you're always in this crisis mode, and we're trying to pull people out of that crisis mode and start allowing them an opportunity to get past the Bible and live. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to also say thank you and echo Vickie's statement about being in the work and being in the trenches and not having the opportunity to get out and connect. Because when we came, I was like, why are they here? It's a lot of them, and they all seem to know each other. So just by results alone, that's a testament to the fact that this community does care about the people that we serve, and that you think it not robbery to take time out of your busy life to come together to search for solutions and to meet interesting individuals. And I also want to leave with an invitation that anybody who has anything that they can provide to people as an opportunity for upward mobility, I don't care what it is, even if it's just mentorship, please reach out and let's get connected so that our people have access to options and opportunities. So with that, I will say thank you for allowing me some space, and spending time with you all this morning has been a great honor and a pleasure and privilege.
You said it well. Thank you, and thank them, everyone, please.